The Italian Wine Podcast is the community-driven platform for Italian wine geeks around the world. Support the show by donating at ItalianWinePodcast.com. Donate €5 or more and we'll send you a copy of our latest book, My Italian Grape Geek Journal, absolutely free. To get your free copy of My Italian Grape Geek Journal, click Support Us at ItalianWinePodcast.com or wherever you get your pods. Grazie mille.
Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as we journey to some of Italy's most beautiful places in the company of those who know them best, the families who grow grapes and make fabulous wines. Through their stories, we will learn not just about their wines, but also about their ways of life, the local and regional foods and specialities that pair naturally with their wines, and the most beautiful places to visit. We have a wonderful journey of discovery ahead of us, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today we travel to Tuscany, to the Chianti Classico, and to San Felice to meet my guest, Leonardo Bellaccini, who is a winemaker and estate manager at this long-standing and pioneering wine estate. Buongiorno, Leonardo. We met yesterday at an online degustazione, so it's a real pleasure to be able to carry on our conversations here and to share the story of San Felice with our Italian Wine Podcast listeners. How are you today?
Very good. Good morning. First of all, good morning, Mark, and thanks for this opportunity. I'm very well. Finally, the rain left. Is a few days that is a classic Tuscan weather. So sunny sky, windy. So it's the perfect weather to start a new season, hoping that is going very, very well until the harvest.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. It's been a strange year everywhere, it seems, throughout Italy, from people I've spoken to. Here in England, we've had the longest, rainiest winter. I've lived here for 45 years, and it's, I think, been the most extreme, with, like in you're experiencing, crazy rain, not just rain, but very strong rain.
Yes, exactly. And very mild also. And this combination of high temperature and rain is really not good for the environment, for the countries in general.
Sure.
Not only for the wine.
Now, Leonardo, I want to give our listeners a visual impression of this very special place where you are. Now, I have in my hand a bottle of Borgo Chianti Classico, and on the label there is a map, map of the Borgo San Felice. Can you describe where you are in this very special place?
Well, now if you watch the part just under the word Borgo, there is a dark spot, a little square, that represents the cellar.
Okay.
In the left part of the spot, where there is on top of the spot a little line, still dark, I'm right there. That is the oldest part of the cellar built in the 1800s. And all the other parts are built in two other steps, a part in 1971 and the newest part in 1982. So this represents the San Felice cellar in Chianti Classico and is where I am now.
Okay, and just to describe it visually, tell us you're at an altitude of 400 meters above sea level, so quite high. And this map, when would that date from? It looks like it's a very old map, and it's a cluster of buildings to form a self-contained borgo. Is that right?
Yes, it's correct. Yes. Actually, is a sort we called cabreo when you put together the houses and some of the properties around. So this is a part of cabreo that describe Borgo San Felice, which is dated back to the 8th century. So the part of the church and few houses around the church are more than 1,000 years old. The rest of the village is built in the century later. Actually, the building of today are built in the 1700. So they are 300 years old now. The village has been restored 35 years ago, and transform step by step in a 5-star hotel. Today we have 60 rooms and 2 restaurants, and is part of Relais Chateau, surrounded by vineyards and with our cellar on top.
Okay, well, that's giving a really good description and also an indication of this unique environment where wine has been produced for at least 1,000 years. But tell us the story of San Felice and the wine estate that you are now involved with. When did San Felice begin as a wine estate?
Well, as you said, the area started to produce wine really many years ago, more than 2,000 years ago. Actually, close to our vineyards, we founded 20 years ago. We founded an Etruscan ruin with a tomb with a 2 skeleton and some vase and some inscription. So definitely the wine production go back to really the very old. But coming soon to the San Felice of today is a relatively young producer, started in 1968. In 67, the property was sold by the family to the actual owner, to a company, and so the company started to invest, replant all the vineyards, and also building, as I said before, building a bigger cellar. The San Felice of today, with a property of 600 hectares, of which 150 are planted in vineyards, and 15,000 olive trees. So our 2 production are primarily wine and also extra virgin olive oil.
Okay, that's really interesting. And I'm just thinking that 1968, we would have been talking, Leonardo, about the moment, the significant moment in Italy, and particularly in Tuscany, when the mezzadria was finished.
Exactly.
So was that a time of great change and great opportunity as well?
Yes, because naturally at that time, all the young generation, the son of the mezzadri, left the countryside, moving to the city to have a better life. Because if you come in San Felice today or in any other properties in Chianti, it's difficult for young people to realize that just 50 or 60 years ago was a totally different world. In terms of landscape, it doesn't change. It's the same beauty 60 years ago and today. But in terms of accommodation, all the houses were without heating. Often also they don't have inside restroom. They have the restroom outside in a different building. So it's really a dramatic change. And so when the mezzadria stopped, many winery, many big farm remain without labor. And so they collapse, and many of them have been sold, and started a new era for the region, because naturally at that time need a big investment. Each producer, each farm need a big investment. So the company put a lot of money, and now we see the result. So all the producers have beautiful cellar, very efficient. The vineyards are well kept, but it's hard to understand what it was. I remember when I arrived in San Felice, the house where now there is the reception, some of the house were still house of a farmer, and downstairs where now there is the reception used to be the cows and sheep and pork, so it was a sort of a little stable, and the family used to live upstairs. So it was totally different. But from outside, we didn't change a corner, we didn't change a rock. So we restore inside, but the view is totally the same that what it was.
Okay, that's a really, really good overview of this significant moment when this form of sharecropping, which had lasted for more than 800 years, came to an end in the 60s. And when you say, Leonardo, that the beauty of the countryside is the same, yes, the hills and the beauty and this incredible landscape, But in a sense, the landscape changed when the form of cultivation went from the promiscuous cultivation under the mezzadria to more specialized viticulture and olives as well. San Felice was at the forefront of that. I guess we could call it a revolution in transforming not just a landscape, but a way of thinking and a way of approaching wine.
No, you are correct. It changed from promiscuous to specialized viticulture. It changed a bit, but I want to be sure that people understand that especially this part of Tuscany, south part of Tuscany, also in the major appellation, you can talk about Chianti Classico, you can talk about Brunello or any other. Vineyards still represent not more than 15% of the total land. So compare other regions where the appellation really took over all the land. We still have a lot of wood. For instance, in San Felice, more than 50% is still wood. And then there is olive trees. It's not only vineyards. It's true, now they are specialized vineyards, but we still a lot of biodiversity, attention to the environment is very strong in Tuscany.
Actually, that's a very, very good point that, as you say, the amount of land that is still given over to the wild woods and to other crops as well, and the importance of sustainability. Can we turn to that before we discuss your wines? Can we talk about some of the farming practices and the importance of sustainability and a regenerative approach that you are following?
Yes, for us it's very important take care of the environment, not only because we want to preserve, but also because we think that is a good answer to the global warming. We can see this global change of temperature and how the rainfall are distributed during the year, an opportunity. So to have this opportunity, naturally we need to manage the soil in a very carefully way, trying to preserve all the organic substance using cover crop that has a lot of volume of roots in the soil, helping us to maintain the soil very well aerated, because naturally often when we watch a vineyard or a tree in general, we watch the upper part. We never think about that what we see is just half of the plant, half of the vine or of the tree. But another very important part is underground, so is the roots system. An healthy vineyards, an healthy vine can be healthy and performing only if they have an healthy root system. Healthy root means often we talk about drought, so it's important to have water, but often we've forgotten that is also important to have oxygen in the soil. So what we are trying to do is reduce the compression of the soil, and this, the cover crop with some specific kind of herbs, grass, help us to maintain this kind of aeration. With the air on top of the soil, the roots can go deeper, because if the soil is without air, they look for air, and the air is up there. So they don't go deep, they come up. They have to go deep looking for water, but to go deep, they need oxygen in the soil. I don't know if I'm able to explain in English. It's a little complicated.
No, it's clear and it's important. And I think it's interesting to consider how, since you've been at San Felice, how awareness and perception has changed. Because I guess when you began, organic farming was really not very common in the Chianti Classico. And now, and I've been speaking with the Consorzio, I think something like 60% of the wine estates in the Consorzio are adapting organic, even if not certified, or sustainable and regenerative practices. So it's become a much more fundamental way of both producing better wines and also dealing with the effects of climate change.
Yes, you're totally right. You're totally right. Today is becoming really a must, a kind of thinking that is very spread around. Also, I spoke with many friends, producer, also the ones that are not yet, they are really thinking to converting. So I would say in few years, probably 90% of the Chianti Classico will be converted in organic.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible to think. And I remember going back into the 80s, I think.
Well, at that time, nobody knows.
No.
Yes, I remember very well.
Leonardo, let's just speak about a few of the wines that I had the opportunity to taste, because I love the wines you're making. There's a real purity and style to them that was very clear in the tasting yesterday. But let's begin with this wine I've already mentioned, Borgo Chianti Classico. You say that this wine embodies the soul of San Felice. What do you mean by that?
Well, it means that 25 years ago, at the end of 90s, we decided to plant some vineyards in some really specific soil with good exposure, high density. I know that today high density have lost part of its focus and importance, but naturally, end of 90s, nobody were thinking to global warming. So I planted approximately 20 hectares around the village with 9,000 vines per hectare, a little bit Bordeaux style, 1.4 per 85. And the concept, the idea at that time was to make a sort of a Chateau San Felice. Also because, also in the past, the castle in the area, the big property, used to give the closest and better soil vineyard to family of mezzadria or farmer that they were very close to the family. So the more loyalty, the more long time living in the same house. So we try to build this connection between land and properties. Then naturally the project takes time to become reality, because naturally to produce a great wine, it needs approximately 10 years before the vines become mature enough. Sometimes the company will change the staff. But at the end, with Carlo De Biasi, when Carlo arrived a couple of years ago, I submitted this concept and we arrived to this result, which is a wine that really is projected since the beginning, planting vineyards and growing the vineyards and then in the cellar with a specific way to really represent, first of all, naturally, a true Chianti Classico. When I say true, I don't want to be misunderstood, but true in the sense that using only indigenous, Sangiovese with just a touch of Pugnitello. And then, like the tradition used to be, only big cask, 10,000 liters. So when I say big, they are really big. So the wood influence is really zero. Trying to have a very clean fermentation to make that any off flavor due to fermentation can spoil a little bit the wine. We started with a beautiful vintage, 2022. Unfortunately, the yield has been ridiculous, dramatically low, but the quality of the 22 vintage has been very, very great, outstanding. So we started producing these 60,000 bottles, and this is the result.
It's a beautiful wine. I really, really enjoyed it.
Italian Wine Podcast. If you think you love wine as much as we do, then give us a like. and a follow anywhere you get your pods.
Pugnatello, it's not a grape one encounters very often. Tell us a little bit about this grape and what it adds to the Sangiovese.
Just a few words also about how and when it arrived in San Felice. San Felice used to deal with the university since the early 80s. Enzo Morganti, that used to be the manager at the time that hired me at San Felice, realized that Italy, in terms of winery, in terms of vinification, was already at that time very well updated. We have a good technology, we have knowledge, but in the other hand, we have to fill it up a big gap compare other part of other region in the world in the vineyards, because the vineyards planted in the 50s or 60s were planted with a quantity philosophy and not thinking really to quality. So to fill it up this gap, he decided to deal with the University of Florence primarily, and later also with the Pisa University, just to make as less mistake we can in any new vineyards. So trying really to focus on quality. So in 86, University of Florence come to San Felice asking as a vineyard, a piece of land where to plant a huge number of indigenous varieties they collected. So we planted these vineyards more to make a favor to the university that for our idea. But then a few years later, at the end of 80s, when we saw the bunches, I realized that some of them could have a great quality potential. The quality potential at that time was decided by few indicators. First of all, have a consistency in the ripeness at the harvest. Believe it or not, in the 80s was the biggest issues in the vineyards just to have a good ripeness. So second, a thick skin that usually means wine with a rich body and a lot of tannins, often also good color, because at that time the Sangiovese that doesn't ripe well was also lacking in color. So I choose 30 of them, of this huge number, more than 160 red varieties, and I did microvinification. From this microvinification, Pugnitello soon come out with a strong personality, dark color, a lot of tannins, but smoothie. And so in early 90s, in 93, I grafted 1,000 vine just to see if with the aging in wood, this character would be maintained. So in 95, I produced the first 3 barrels. And with the aging in barrels, the result was even more intriguing and interesting. So we start to plant, and since the vintage 2003, we start to produce 100% Pugnitello. And then later became, after Sangiovese, became the most planted varieties in San Felice. So it's a sort of signature varieties for us, because I still have the 100% and I keep it as a sort of witness of this long research program. But I have enough to use in different blends. So I have here in the Borgo, but I also have a little bit in one of the Gran Selezione. And I also use in the Vigorello our historical Super Tuscan, just to give not only the Tuscan blood in the wine, but also the San Felice print in the winemaking style and philosophy.
Okay, that's fascinating. And I think what's particularly interesting to me and to our listeners is how the excellence and the quality in Italian wines and in San Felice wines has come both from a research of ancient varieties, indigenous varieties, that without that careful research would have been lost. That grape may have been lost. I think you said yesterday that it's not a very productive grape. It yields very little. And so you can see why during the time of the mezzadria, when quantity was the aim rather than quality, a vine like Pugnatello would have been grubbed up and replaced with a more productive variety. And so to actually have that care in propagating and caring and carrying out these experiments is a really interesting story in itself. And I think we taste that in the wines. I think the Pugnatello was in all the wines we tasted yesterday. And indeed, as you mentioned, in Vigorello. Now, we don't have a huge amount of time, so I would like to just talk about two more wines, and then we'll turn to the Borgo San Felice, which is a wonderful story too. But let's first of all talk about Poggio Rosso, then a few words about Vigorello, one of the historic Super Tuscans, which we must mention. I last tasted it at Vinitaly this year at a masterclass of Super Tuscan wines. So Poggio Rosso, which again is a Chianti Classico, but the top of the pyramid, a gran selezione. Tell us about this wine.
Well, this wine is a single vineyard production. Is a vineyard really selected because the combination of soil and exposure and all the character that vineyards need to produce quality grapes were there. So we decided to also put our effort, so being more careful in all the different decisions, from the pruning to the canopy management to the harvest. As you know, the harvest is always a key moment because any fruit trees, and the vine is at the end is a fruit trees, doesn't produce all the fruit at the same quality. If you go eat cherry by a trees, you don't pick blind. You watch the cherry that you have to pick for eating, because there are part of the cherry that are still half green, part of the cherry that are overripe, and you want to eat only the best. And the grape is totally the same. So at the harvest, we do a double selection, a selection at the vineyards, but we realized that wasn't enough. So since 2015, we also do a second selection at the cellar with an optical sorter that remove both the overripe and the not well ripe berry. So the second step of sorting is done by berry. At the vineyards is done by bunches, and then at the cellar by berry, trying to be sure that only the best of the best grape is dedicated to this wine. And then until the end, until the final blend, if when me and Francesca, which is my colleague, young winemaker involved, if we are not sure in some of the barrels, they are put aside, and only the best really grape first and the best barrels then are in the final blend of the Poggio Rosso wine.
Okay, so this really is the top expression of Chianti Classico from San Felice in every respect, from the single vineyard, 100% Sangiovese now, is that correct?
Yes, since 2011 is 100% Sangiovese. It was born in 78, Sangiovese in Colorino. Then from 2003 to 2010, I have had also a little part of Pugnitello. And then from 2011, I decided to, when the wine became Gran Selezione, from Riserva to Gran Selezione, I decided to do only 100% Sangiovese.
So it really is the epitome of Sangiovese at San Felice. Beautiful wine. What I love about the wines that I tasted throughout was a beautiful freshness, even with the the wines in the mature Poggio Rosso, there's a beautiful freshness and an elegance with tannins that are very, very fine and well knit. And, we see this as they're aging and as the wines evolve and gain in complexity. So beautiful wines, complimenti.
Thank you, Mark.
2 words very briefly about Vigorello, because this is an iconic wine and we can't talk about San Felice without a mention.
Yeah, correct. This is, in Italian, we say the other face of the medal. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but anyway, we go back again to the 60s, we go back again to the mezzadria, and we go back to a Chianti that at that time was the most exported Italian wine in the world, but it was known as an ordinary wine for the reason that we said before, because people at that time, the producer, think more about quantity than quality. The most proud producer, and San Felice was the first, but just after San Felice, many others did the same, because the problem at the time was the rules of the appellation that doesn't allow to produce Chianti only with the Sangiovese, only with the red grapes. So San Felice decided in 68 to produce the first 5,000 bottles of 100% Sangiovese, produce in San Felice, so producing Chianti Classico, but because it doesn't have the white grapes, it couldn't be called Chianti. So we have to call at the time table wine, that, by the way, was the base of the pyramid of the quality, so the lower level, but was the most expensive wine of the wine list of the producer of San Felice. So was quite complicated, let people understand why a table wine was so expensive. And the only way was let people taste. So the wine really succeed, not only Vigorello, but I mean also the category succeed. And in few years, I would say in the 80s, almost every producer from Chianti start to produce a wine from red grapes, mostly from Sangiovese. Someone start to use a blend with also international varieties like Cabernet. This category of wine really made the Italian or the Tuscan winemaking renaissance. In the 90s, the Tuscan wine became really the top of the quality, and Vigorello has been really the forefront of this category, and is still today we have talk about a lot about the appellation, about Chianti Classico, because naturally, thanks to this category, also the appellation gain image and in position in the market. So they really did a great job for the appellation, for the Tuscan wine, for the Italian wine, and Vigorello really is. I say the other side of the medal, because naturally I couldn't say that is the wine that represents San Felice, but definitely is one of the wine that represent San Felice philosophy, San Felice history in winemaking, and is one of our outstanding brand in the wine production.
Yes, and I think it's very important, the story you've just told there from the beginning of how the so-called super vini da tavola, these super table wines, which became known as the super Tuscans, how they encouraged and lifted Chianti Classico as an appellation, and with the changes in rules, with the white grapes no longer needing to be used, with the Sangiovese in Purezza wines could be made. Chianti Classico has just gone up and up, very top level, alongside these iconic super Tuscan wines. And San Felice, as you say, was a pioneer. Now, another instance that San Felice is a pioneer is in the field of wine hospitality. The Borgo San Felice, this Relais Chateau luxury complex that you described at the beginning, was one of the earliest wine resorts, if not the earliest. I'm not sure about that.
I think the earliest in Tuscany. Yes, you're right.
I recall visiting it must have been, Leonardo, must have been the late 80s or early 90s.
Early 90s. Yes, we started in 1990.
1990, that's right.
And we are part of Relais Chateau since 95.
Okay. You know, it's again interesting for our listeners. Wine tourism in 1990 didn't exist really anywhere in Italy. I wrote a book called The Wine Roads of Italy that was taking people into the wine country. But then it was very much, you know, you knocked on somebody's door, and if they were not too busy, they would show you around and you could taste the wines, even at famous places, famous wine estates. The concept of wine tourism is now so important. And the wine resort at Borgo San Felice has really been at the forefront. Tell us about what Borgo San Felice offers.
Well, it offers 360 degrees experience from the environment, bike tour, arts. Siena and Florence are the major city close by, but also some small beautiful village, both in Chianti, like Radda, Panzano, and Greve, approximately half an hour by car, but also going out of Chianti. I said again, the south part of Tuscany is really amazing in terms of arts, jewels like Pienza, like Cortona, like the Valdorcia, which is a UNESCO heritage. Montalcino is still 40 minutes from here. It is really a great opportunity to see around, and naturally taking the opportunity also to experience the wines from San Felice. The guests can visit our cellar, taste the wine both in the cellar, but we have also some fancy offers. We have a little tiny farmhouse, a sort of how do you say, caban? You understand? Caban?
Yep, I think so.
Yep.
Yep. Almost a hut.
Yeah, each mezzadro used to have a little tiny room in the middle of the vineyards where they used to keep the tools, and they keep something to eat, and they recover if they have a little storm, a little rain. So
Okay.
we also restore one of them just between San Felice and the Poggio Rosso vineyards, and we can offer a tasting in the middle of the vineyards. We really offer several opportunities, but also visiting other beautiful winery around us. We have a beautiful neighbors that offer other experience. So it's really a great opportunity to understand the Chianti style life, the Chianti philosophy, and the Chianti wine.
And of course, the cucina of the Chiantigiana.
Yes, sorry, I forgotten to mention, but yes.
Tell us about the two restaurants briefly.
Yes, we have an osteria and a more fine dining Poggio Rosso restaurant, which is a Michelin star restaurant. So we have the two kind of cuisine, one more traditional and one more refined, fancy food. People can enjoy both, and they also can enjoy just a little snack during the tasting straight away in the cellar with some bruschetta and pane salame or pane pecorino. So we really offer different way and different opportunity to enjoy their vacation, their holidays in this really amazing place. And I say amazing because I not only working here since more than 40 years, but I really live here. I was born and raised in Siena, and the other amazing things is from Siena is 20 minutes away. But when I was a young guy, I didn't know Chianti. I didn't know the area. the area was hide in the countryside. The roads were back road, not asphalted. So coming here was a sort of really a sort of trip, when in the 70s. But when I started to work here, I realized that was a great opportunity. So since 1990, I live in the property. It is really a dream. I feel very, very lucky to have this opportunity. Also because it's a walking distance from my house. I don't feel that I come to work. To me, is my life. So I'm not working.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing to say, and to be able to have seen this transformation, to have been part of this transformation over the past 40 years into this wonderful Borgo San Felice that is such a self-contained area. Leonardo, it's been a great pleasure talking to you, hearing your story, the story of San Felice going back 2,000 years to when the Etruscans were growing vines and making wine on this same land, to now, and to how things are changing even today with the different challenges. Thank you so much for sharing your story with our listeners who are located all around the world, and I'm sure many will try to find their way to San Felice. And I look forward to meeting you there myself. So thank you very much.
Mark, thank you. It's been really a nice and great time to spend with you. But more than that, I would like to invite naturally you, but also the listener, if anybody have the opportunity to travel to Tuscany, come to visit us. If you want to stay overnight or just for a tasting wine tour, contact us and enjoy the Chianti wine. Thank you, Mark. Thanks.
Grazie, Leonardo. Grazie. Ciao.
Ciao. See you soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe right here or wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at ItalianWinePodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.